there's no Hilchos Snius per se. There's no laws of Hilchos Snius which tell people how to dress. Such an important thing. There's no thing. What there is the Mishnah, as we've talked about over and over again, the Mishnah in Ksuvos, which says that ha'overes al das Moshe al das Yehudis, and I pointed out das is not, as is mistaken, dalad ayin taf. Das Moshe, culture, das, like a dati. Das is das Moshe or das Yehudis. Yotzeis, but like Suva, the Mishnah gives a few examples of this. Thank you very much. The Mishnah gives a few examples of what this is. The taich of das Moshe and das Yehudis is completely unclear. First of all, the word das. The only place we use the word das is when we're Mekadosh and Ish, so we say Arayat Mekudeshesli. What do we say? I forgot already. Kidas Moshe v'Yisrael. Das Moshe, we have an idea. We know who Moshe was. Yehudis, as opposed to common translation, it was not a woman by the name of Yehudis. Yehudis means Jewish. Some Rishonim learn that Yehudis is not even talking about Das Yehudis having anything to do with one. It could say Das Yehudi, yeah? It doesn't even have it's Das because the word Das is Nekeva, so Yehudis is Nekeva also. Understand? It's like if Das would be Lashon Zachar, which you say Misrad Hadatot, right? So Misrad Hadatot, the word Das is, you could always tell from the plural. If you're not good at diktuk, you could always tell from the plural whether it's masculine or feminine. So water is what? Masculine, ma'yim, right? But das is feminine. So according to some Rishonim, I'm talking about now Machlekes the Tosfos written in the Meiri. According to some Rishonim, das Yehudis is nothing to do with women b'chlal. Men also have to keep das Yehudis. And the example brought by the poskim of men keeping das Yehudis is when men not just dress, but dress also kineged minhagei Yisrael. So interesting example in the poskim that the men, Jewish men, always wore long coats, like the Hasidim. That's what they wore. And at some point, they changed it to short coats. By and large, most people wear a short coat unless you're Hasidish. And that was at the time, sometime in the 1800s when that changed, the post Fiddler on the Roof era. So Das Yehudis, the discussion of the poskim at that time was, are men being over Das Yehudis? Now, Das Yehudis then means for all Jews. That's what the Tosfos Rid says. The Meiri says that Das Yehudis refers to the Yehudis, Jewish women. And he even asks, so why doesn't it say Das Yehudiyah? And he gives a whole discussion in grammar about why it says Das Yehudis and not Das Yehudiyah. But it's particularly culture of Jewish women. So that's Das Moshe, Das Yehudis.
What's Das Yisrael?
What's Das Yisrael? And why do we say that? Why do we say it under the chuppah? In the Das Moshe and Das Yehudis, as you know, even better would be to, not from the Mishnah, but from Shulchan Aruch. Shulchan Aruch says in Ebenezer Kuf Tes Vav, it's talking about, the Mishnah is talking about who loses their ksufa. What does that mean? It means that you're not allowed to divorce somebody without fault. And if you do, you have to pay supposedly a large sum to divorce somebody. In other words, this was a deterrence to somebody getting angry at their wife and throwing her out of the house at a time, particularly at a time when we had 3 wives or 4 wives, and always had 1 or 2 to spare. Just get out of here. So very specific in the Mishnah. What are the cases where one is allowed to be moitzi is ishtay and it doesn't cost you any money? And this is the Mishnah's. This is the subject of the Mishnah. Das Moshe, Das Yehudis. Now, do you see? I'm asking you. Do you see in there that a certain chet that she's doing? Think carefully with me for a second. Like, let's say she eats a bacon and eggs sandwich. Is she Yotzei B'lo Ksuva? No. Not allowed to divorce her. Take her to the rabbi. You're not allowed to divorce her. Yotzei B'lo Ksuva is a very, very specific list, which I will explain. If she's Machal Shabbos, you allowed to divorce her? No. No. It has to be something connected to the list in the Mishnah and the Rambam and in Shulchan Aruch. So this is not about doing Averos. It's something else. Das Moshe Das Yehudis is something else, which in this particular case of Moitzi B'lo Ksuva, it's more chamor than Chilul Shabbos. She eats on Yom Kippur. You're allowed. No. But if she screams, she's a kolanit, the Mishnah says, and she's embarrassing you, it's a different. Then you're allowed to be Moitzi B'lo Ksuva. Shulchan Aruch, let me just read you the Shulchan Aruch better than the Mishnah even. Ezu das Yehudis. This is actually a quote from the Rambam. What's das Yehudis? Ezu das Yehudis hu minig hatznius shenahagu b'nois Yisrael. Ve'elu heim dvarim, these are things she'im asasa achas mehem avra al das Yehudis. Yotze l'shuk so she goes outside with her head uncovered. No, not uncovered. Parua means hair flying all over the place. Vein oler redid. You know what a redid is? No. I looked according to most Rishonim. A redid is the shawl. It's a shawl. You made sharm for generations. They wore a shawl. The women wanted to wear a shawl. Not anymore. So you see how things are fluid.
The Mishkan of Adid is a line of gold. They would make Adidim Kashal Zav, and they would cut the line of gold.
Yeah. So a redid means a long thing. A redid, Kechol Anashim, Afal Pi Shisara Mechusa B'Matpachat. So even though she's walking around with her hair covered, if she doesn't have a redid, so Aser, she's Yotzei B'lo Ksuva. Oy Shoy Satava Bashuk, V'Vered Ukiyotzei B'Neged Panah, she had like some kind of a rose hanging over her face. Al Padachtoy, Al Lachia, Kedar Shoysa Hagoyois Haprutzais, like the Goyim do. Oy Shatava Bashuk Amarzre Asel B'nei Adam Uregila B'Kach, or she goes outside with short sleeves regularly, as opposed to, which the Gemara explains, that a woman who's a weaver in public, and sometimes because when she's weaving, her sleeves roll up, that's not called a Yotzei B'lo Ksuva. But if she like Bedafka goes out, Regila Zreya Seha, she's Mara, Regila B'Kach. Oh, Shoysa Misachekes Im HaBocharim. Okay. She's playing soccer. Oh, Shoysa Tevas HaTashmish B'Kol Ram Mibala. Ad Shishchanasel Shoymoy Soysa. She's talking about personal things loudly. Or she's avi bala bifnei bala, or she's cursing her father-in-law. B'chol achas me'ele teitzei b'lo ksuva. In a case, yesh edim shehisra batchila va'avar al hasrasei, providing she was warned about this, and there were witnesses that saw that she was warned. Now, again, this is a peculiar list. I know I've repeated it a number of times, but it's a peculiar list. It's not a list of Averis, nor is the Das Moshe a list of Averis Deraisa. So when he says here in this book, and just for illustrative purposes, he says here, Chachamim isyachsu ba'oisa chomer l'das Moshe v'das Yehudis u'kolon oisa yachad. That Chazal, this is, I'm reading from the Sefer Halavush Kil Chasai, that according to the Chachamim, they package Das Moshe v'das Yehudis, Kollel Oisam Yachad, they package them together. True or false?
No.
That according to Chazal, Hisyachasu Ba'isa Chumra, Das Moshe and Das Yehudis have the same Chumra. You think that's true or false? The Kachamar b'Mishnah. So before Mishnah and Ksuvas Hayin Beis, which it's not. Hoiveres al Das Moshe v'Yehudis. Koloimar, Isha hoiveres al Das Moshe v'Yehudis, Mitzvah al bala legarsha bal karcha. Wow. You hear what we just said? If one's wife, this is what he writes here. I'm just reading what he writes. If one's wife walks out of the house with some regilos, with short sleeves on, so mitzvah al bala legarsha bal karcha. Get rid of her. Throw her out. It's a mitzvah. Chiyuv. Ubenoisaf lakach isha zu mafsidas ksuva. So not only that, but she goes without any ksuva at all. So this struck off an alarm. First of all, it means that I've been counseling people incorrectly for a number of decades. But second of all, Yotze B'lo Ksuva, the Pashtus means that if you want to divorce her, you're allowed to, but of course we make shalom. You're allowed to, and she doesn't get a ksuva, but a chiyuv to divorce her. This is what he derives from the Shulchan Aruch. So okay, Yaacov Haber. Okay, so I take a look. Am I right or am I wrong? I mean, the quote here is, and it's mefurish, bal karcha. Quotes a mefurish from the Shulchan Aruch Ebenezer Kuf Tes Vav Daled. Shulchan Aruch Kuf Tes Vav Daled is what I'm reading to you, but go a little further and look what he says. And here I want to explain something which is very, very, should be very, very clarifying. B'chol achas me'elu, anybody who goes against the list, teitzei b'loi ksuva. Im yesh edim shehisra b'tchila. If there was edim, teitzei b'loi ksuva. Ve'avra by hasrasei, and she went against his warning. So first of all, it's not the short sleeves. It's the, like you learned from Soita. It's the warning, and you went against my warning. V'im ein edim tishva shehu kidvarel, and then the Shulchan Aruch says v'im ratza l'kayim oisa acher kach. Now let's say she says, okay, I'm not going to do that anymore. So, ein koifen oisei lohaitzi. This the Shulchan Aruch says. We don't force him lohaitzi. Umikol makom, and here's his makar, mitzvah alav sheyoitziena. It's a version Shulchan Aruch. You don't force the guy to divorce his wife, but he's doing a mitzvah code. So you can see how this was read. So you see from here that the Hilchas Snius is not only a chiyuv on her, but it's a mitzvah of Lagarsha. So let me explain here why this is not exactly like duck. Do you hear the? I mean, do we?
It also doesn't mention Hasra or anything.
Right.
I think that's like a big
all the conditions, Adim and conditions. I want to tell you, I don't believe. I've never met, but I don't believe there is a Rav today that would tell somebody that they have a chiyuv to get divorced because his wife is not sanua. I don't think there's thousands of cases and for many reasons. But let me explain two things here, which I think are yesodistic. Number one, halacha yesodistic. The pshat, and I looked it up in the Beis Shmuel brings a Rashba. I looked in the Rashba. The pshat in this mitzvah of Lagarsha is the following. It's not because she's not sanua. And it's not even, I hinted to it, because there was a hasra, she went against the hasra. Okay. It's because listen carefully, since one is in a marriage, which there would be no chiyuv ksuva if we get divorced, meaning there's no deterrence, so you're married you're married against Chazal. Whereas Chazal set up a marriage in a way that shaloite kalo beinah loitzia. It's not easy to break a marriage. Chazal dafka set it up in a way that is complicated to get divorced, both for a man to a woman to get divorced. And what Chazal understood, this is such a deep thing. Chazal understood that not just so you shouldn't get divorced, but the whole marriage is different when we know that we're committed to keep it together. Do you follow me? It's a different idea. Meaning the structure of a Jewish marriage, particularly after the time of Rabbeinu Gershon, which the Ramah says, that when he saw kalus, people getting divorced too easily, the whole idea was Chazal put different instruments into play to make it difficult, but not just that way I won't get divorced, because that way the marriage is taken more seriously and with more commitment. That's the touch. Like, we're in this. It's not like, like some kind of a business arrangement, which is a pain in the neck to break up, but you could break it up. Go to the base and you break it up. It's much more complicated. So from the minute that I get married, all the way till death do us part, there is that ksuva, and Isha like ksuva asur l'bala kanida, right? So the Gemara says that a woman without a ksuva asur. Why? Because of a certain kalus das. Why is it ad kedeka asur l'bala kanida? How could it be such a davar chamor? So the answer is because at that moment where there's no ksuva, there's no marriage. So here comes the mechaber with a big kula. So how you allowed to stay married? If she's over on the ksuva, for whatever that means, if she's over on the ksuva, so how you allowed to stay married? You have an isha b'lek, but she's a chayra and isha b'lek ksuva, and she's also labala kenida, and comes the mechaber and he says a chiddush ain't kaifin isay loytzia. And the reason why the mechaber says this, look in the Beis Yosef, is because things will change. Things will change. Like people go through different stages, and people go through the Beis Yosef. Beis Yosef is the first, and people are going to change. It's lo sofa olam, and don't get you don't have to be the mashgiach here, and hence we don't do it. And the later poskim of Pesach Tshuva brings it, the Merkodesh brings it, that today ain't a no klal, ain't a no klal. So I just, in my opinion, the sentence is misleading. Because what he's trying to do is to create that's the agenda. The agenda is to start off with this is an Avera. It might be an Avera, but that's how it says in Shulchan Aruch. It's such an Avera that I'm not allowed to live with you. So what if she's B'chal Shabbos? So here comes the deeper thing. That was the Pashat of Shad in the Shulchan Aruch. I'll tell you a deeper thing that I saw as a machlokes from Meiri and the Tosfos Rid, how to teach this, but this is the Pashat of Shat and Das Moshe and Das Yehudis. Listen to how profound it is. I think I wrote down their lashon. He says the list of items. Again, we're talking about the items that a isha is yotze b'lo ksuva. From here, Rabbi said we all have to learn how to be married. The list of items is Das Moshe. Das Moshe, if you look at the list carefully, the Meiri says, it's all issues of trust. She gives you food without meisering it. Am I supposed to live here? I'm relying on you to make food. She says, this is all in Shulchan Aruch, in the Gemara, in the Mishnah. She says, I asked her Rav Shaila on Ksamim, and I didn't ask her Rav Shaila on Ksamim. It was not Deraisa. Very Das Moshe. Meaning, if she's Machal Shabbos, okay, you're Machal Shabbos, sad. We'll have to send you to an Arachim seminar or something. But that's not what we're talking about here. What we're talking about in Das Moshe is that if I can't trust you, and it could be the other thing, it could be work the other way around also. But the point is that the men don't have a ksuva, for whatever reason, But at least in this case, all the list of Das Moshe, this is so profound what the Meiri says. The whole list of Das Moshe are all matters of trust. Go through the list. I just read you the list. It's all about, can I trust you or can I not trust you? And we can't have and if I can't trust you, you're Yotze B'lo Ksuva. Why? Because this is not a marriage. You can't expect me to and this is what we say under the chuppah, Harei HaMekudeshes Li Kadas Moshe Yisrael. That this is a t'nai, so it's not the Avera Shabo. It's got nothing to do with Averas. But if I can't trust you on things that or people trusted themselves each other on in the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, so then I can't trust you, and therefore you violated the t'nai that we made under the chuppah of Kadas Moshe Yisrael.
Basach Labba Leibala comes first.
The what? Botach ba'alei bal. Very good.
Comes first.
It's a base. Botach ba'alei bal. Which is a whole different insight into the whole halachas. Everything is the Das Yehudis, says the Meiri, is not about trust. It's about these are matters of rebellion. Rebellion, not about trust. She's very open about it. But this is what I do. I play basketball with the boys every Friday. This is what I do. But I don't want you to do that, or I don't think it's right for you to do that. It's not tznius to do that. So she's over on Das Yehudis. If you go through the whole list of Das Moshe, you have issues of trust, and you have to go through the whole list of Das Yehudis and Shulchan Aruch. You have issues of rebellion. Rebellion's a strong word, but you know what I mean. Which the catch-all term for in Shulchan Aruch is Isha Moredas. So, but you can't, not if she's Moredas in everything, or not if she's untrustworthy in everything. It has nothing to do. All I'm saying, this is the key thought that I'm making. I'm not giving a schmooze here on Shalom Bayis. What I'm saying is, the Mishnah doesn't teach you much about the halachas of tznius. The Mishnah is talking about the halachas of, or the necessity for both trust and whatever the lack of, not subservience, but if you're going to go spitefully against me, how are we supposed to be married? Those are the two things that I mean when I say Kedas Moshe Yisrael, and you were makabel that kinyan. Now, is this a makar for Hilchos Tznius? Okay, if it's not, then this whole sefer is wrong, because the whole sefer is being mefalpel and Das Moshe and Das Yehudis, covering your hair and everything. Like, what's the makaros for Tznius? First of all, let's say there's no inyan of a ksuva b'chlal, a single woman, not just an 18-year-old single woman, but an 80-year-old single woman. So she doesn't apply. There's no union of trust, and there's no union of rebellion. She's free, which is probably why single women don't have to cover their hair. It's an iksuva. It's not a din. It's an iksuva. It's not a din in Hilchos Tznius. Well, what could possibly? And I know I'm saying this very humbly because I know the Achronim Maturzich in this, is it a special heter because of shidduchim and all kinds of different heterim. But the minhag, let's say, which is what we're going to come down to in the next 5 minutes, the minhag was that nobody's makbid on it. It's not a das Moshe, it's not a das Yehudis. And according to many poskim, it is still a das Moshe that even an unmarried woman should have her hair not flying all over the place. According to many, that's considered an oiveres al das Moshe val das Yehudis, or of minhagei Yisrael because upara roisha isha. Because of the pasuk of Vayasoita, that should apply to a single also. But what we understand is that this is not really a makar for tznius, except perhaps beramiza, indicating to you what is expected from a bas Yisrael. But to learn from there, you can't learn. And the pshat in this that he says that it's a mitzvah lagarsha, the mitzvah lagarsha, which first of all we don't enforce. It says before Shulchan Aruch ein koif and oisei. He says mitzvah lagarsha. That's all he says. Ein koif and oisei. And the person who say we don't do it, that's because of halacha and hilchos ksuvas. Because I'm dori misha b'loy ksuva. That's the reason for it. Not because she's this horrible person. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you don't see this as a very controversial chiddush gadol, then you're not getting it. It's. By the way, one more time, I'm very pro tznius. I fight for tznius and Baruch Hashem, Makayim tznius, but not from this Mishnah. Yeah.
A couple of thoughts. First of all, is that why the Hesra is so important? Because it has to matter to him, and you have to.
That's right.
So if he doesn't say anything, so should it be?
You're going to say every Litvisher Rosh Hashiva for the last 150 years in Europe, whose wives didn't cover their hair, they were mechuyev to divorce them. Since it was, it's absurd to say this, to say, the people, the Chashuva people, or Rav Shabshir Fol Hirsch's Kehila, were like this. So they should have all gotten divorced, like they should have all, should have been mass. It's ridiculous because maybe they were right, maybe they were wrong. I'm not posketing of this. I'm just saying that sof kol sof, that wasn't a violation of a marriage. So we're not talking about a violation of a halacha. We're talking about a violation of a marriage. It wasn't considered a violation. That's why hasra is important, to your point.
So it's interesting that when he calls the sefer the Rosh Kehilchasam, the whole thing is built on minhag. He's
Right. So let me get there because I only have a couple of minutes and I want to finish the subject. The other makar, Kehilchasa is the good deal. Yeah. The other makar for all the halachas, part 2, is Hilchas Kriyas Shema, which is Siman Ein Shulchan Aruch, and the Mishnah Berurah. And there it talks about, very simply, as we went through, there it talks about whether you're allowed to say Kriyas Shema or a Davar Shebekdusha in front of an erva. And the answer is you're not. You're not allowed to. And the Shulchan Aruch goes on to say what's erva, what's not erva, shoik be'isha erva, zeroya be'isha erva, sar be'isha erva. So you can't say Kriyas Shema. We know the controversies about whether that can change or whether it can't change. We talked about it with the Aruch HaShulchan. But the Shulchan Aruch is talking about Davar Shebekdusha. To learn from there, Hilchas Snias, although there's many, many connections. Obviously, we have a working definition of what's called erva, but V'hayamachanecha Kadosh is specifically specifically telling you that that's talking about if you're saying Kriyas Shema, if you're learning Torah, if you're so let's say you're not doing any of those things. So we don't have a real makar from there. So part 2 of all these things is to quote from the Mishnah Berurah of what you're not allowed to read Kriyas Shema in front of, but that doesn't tell you that it's usher to go like that when nobody's reading Kriyas Shema. Or Hayamachanecha Kadosh, for instance, let's say, the third thing, part 3, I'll get to the let's say in a second. The third thing that keeps on being discussed is the Isser of Lifnei Iver. I'm going to end, don't fall asleep now because I want to end with what the real thing is. But I'm just telling you what the Svarim say. The Isser of Lifnei Iver lo siten michshel. So if our women dress in promiscuous ways, so you're causing hirhurim in men, and that's no good. So, and how do we know it's my problem, not your problem? Because it says Lifnei Iver lo siten michshel. To which the women all like to say, well, so don't look. That's always the Lifnei Iver lo siten michshel. He says here, Lifnei Iver. Just read you a little sentence. Many people are not aware of this, and that ignorance often leads to deplorable breaches of tznius. I was once told about a supposedly frum hotel which serves glatt kosher food and caters to the frum community, where there are separate swimming pools for men and women, but with only a partial divider separating them. When a guest once complained to the hotel staff about the egregious lack of tznius in the pool, the answer received was, "Who told you to look?" But there is no justification for this argument, and this hotel cannot truly be considered a kosher establishment, a religious establishment. Now, I'm just, again, this is a halacha shir. I'm not recommending anybody goes mixed swimming here. But is this Lifnei Iver? Lifnei Iver in Shulchan Aruch is Asil Adam Lashut Kais Yayin Lenozir. You're not allowed to deliberately entice somebody by putting a kais yayin in front of the nazir. Here, have some yayin. Come on, you can have some yayin.
It's kavanah.
Of course, it's b'kavanah. If you know somebody's a nazir, don't offer him wine. Even if your kavanah is not that you should do an aveira, but you're offering him wine. I'm saying I don't know, and I want to just be down Klal Yisrael l'kav schos, that if that every woman that walks around outside with, and they're over lifnei iver. They're over lifnei iver. I mean, it's so rachik min haseichel to say such a thing. And lifnei iver has so many halachas, like for instance, trei aver lanari. If the same thing is available somewhere else, so then there is no lifnei iver. So if you have a supermarket, you're allowed to sell whatever you want, as long as somebody else sells the same thing. You don't say, well, somebody's going to buy it. There's drabanans and Messiah l'dvar avera doesn't apply here. I'm saying that the three sources which are used for hilchas snias is A, the Mishnah of Ksuvos, B, the halachas of Kriya Shema, and 3, the halachas of Lifnei Iver Lo Sitin Michshol. There is, in my opinion, and I believe this is emes, obviously, but there's one machayev of snias, and snias is an extremely important thing. The machayev of snias is that this is the way the Bnei Yisrael have gone. To some extent, it could change. Some of it is fluid. I believe Das Moshe is the way Jews went in the time of Moshe. Das Yehudis is the way Jewesses have gone throughout all the generations. It has everything to do with minhag hamakom and very little to do with any kind of halacha. It has everything to do in Hilchos Ksuvos with, okay, listen, we said we're going to act Jewish and we're not acting Jewish. So it's all about, and this is clear in Chazal, there's only one yesod. What is the minhag hamakom? There's only one yesod. And that's machayev, how we should dress and how we should talk and how we should act. And it doesn't even help. I'll give you beforehand like a good example of this. The Chassam Sofer in Lamed Zayin. So he says there's two very important Chassam Sofers. Chassam Sofer one is that he's the only one, Das Yochid, who holds that a minhag goes transfers generation to generation. Pashut Pshat, in a minhag, it's minhag hamakom. Just because my father had a minhag, I said this 100 times, my grandfather had a minhag, doesn't have to be my minhag. No such thing. But it's a nice idea, it's nice, keep it oveim, but it's not a chiyuv of minhag. Malkim shemnagu, that's what you have to do. What? No, because everybody keeps it all the time. That's all Mekoimos. Right, but it's not because my father did it. They kept it. They kept Das Moshe. Das Yehudis is fluid. But so the Chassam Sofer holds that a minhag does go from generation to generation. So what is somebody asks, Ein Zayin in the Chassam Sofer, you could do Shalom Shuvas Chassam Sofer, right? Zayin. What somebody asks, like, according to the what? Shalom Shuvas. Somebody asks, according to the minhag of the Menhagim of the Chassam Sofer, the Chaveh Gestelt, so a woman can't have even one hair showing, and the reason is, two reasons really, because the Gemara says by Kimchis, a big Mila that she had sons that were Kehanim Gedolim, Shalei Saris Spasius, Karis Spasius Saris Roshi, that I never had my hair uncovered even when I was sleeping. And the Gemara says, okay, that's very nice. That's why she had Kehanim Gedolim. There's no such halacha. A woman in the house there's no such halacha. And the other thing is, because the Zohar says that if you want to have Hatzlach in life, you shouldn't have even one hair showing. So somebody asked the Chassam Sofer, how can you make halacha based on two kind of obscure chumras of a das yechida in the Gemara and a Zohar, halacha is not lefi a Zohar. So the Chassam Sofer says how important it is, but he says you don't do it because of kimchis and you don't do it because of the Zohar. You have to do it because that's our minhag. What the makar of the minhag? It's not like what he was answering this Rav. He says that you're not asking your people to do it because there's a Zohar like that. So therefore it's the halacha. Mechates Zohar is halacha. But that's only like interesting sources for Minhagei Yisrael. Yafeh, we'll write a book on Mintamei Minhagim. But the reason, the machayev of it is Minhagim. So Chassam Sofer says here in Mefurish that the only thing that can be machayev, whatever level of tznius it may be, is the minhag hamakom. And from here we can see something in Hilchos Kriya Shema, and we can see something in Hilchos Ksuvos. We could see that there are certain things that it was normal to be mechusa. There are derivative halachas that you can learn from it, but it's not a makar. Do you follow me? So what we have to investigate, you're going to have to do this on your own, or you could read these books and just do the opposite. But but what you're going to see is so many Makairas, is just to be able to know what the Minhagei Yisrael is. But I just want to end off, if you give me 1 minute, because we're talking politics at the beginning. But people say, I want to end off this little piece of it, maybe next week if we, I want to really get into Hilchos Nida, if it's okay with you. But people are machalik between a halacha and a minhag. Let's say, is it a halacha or is it only a minhag? Somebody on Friday WhatsApped me, she lit candles, it was 18 minutes, it was 10 minutes before Shkia. She has to keep Shabbos. She WhatsApped me. Am I allowed to break Shabbos now? She forgot to do something. So she WhatsApped me. It was like a funny thing. But is this a minhag or a halacha? So now, if I write her back, am I really naive? Yeah. But I think myself, first of all, it should make no difference to anybody whether it's a minhag or a halacha. It's Judaism. How it came to be, there's no difference. A minhag could be stronger than a halacha. A halacha could be drabanan, a minhag could be protecting a deraisa. There's minhag, there's halacha, there's gzeira, there's chumrah, there's all kinds of reasons why we do stuff. Chumrah, maybe it can be makel sometimes. So this you have to be a big posek to be able to know, like what's a minhag and what's halacha. But for all practical purposes, what's the difference? What does it mean? A minhag means this is our practice, and a halacha means this is our practice. It's the same thing. Who made this Shayativ Shady Shalgolius Minhagahu? Minhag Abasenu Biyadenu. So who says it's not important? It's a minhag. The Yativ Shady Shalgolius, the whole Golos for 2,000 years. We keep Yativ Shady in Chutzlar. It's Tachnora minhag. I could go do it if nobody's looking. I can get away with it. There's no such thing. So what I'm saying is that it's a minhag. This whole Indian of Sneas, it's even stronger than a halacha. It's stronger than a Mishnah and Ksuvas. It's stronger than a Mishnah Berurah and Hilchos Kriyashma. You're talking about how B'nai Yisrael are noeg and how B'nai Yisrael are noeg. That needs to be researched. It's generally totally in the makom. So if the makom is lucky enough to have minhagim, they have minhagim, and everybody should keep those minhagim. And there's disputes throughout history whether this is a violation, girls riding bicycles, or in their case, horses. Is that keneged a minhag, presasya raglayim? Is it keneged a minhag? It's not keneged a minhag, but okay. But it's all one thing. The yesod is all one thing. Minhag Yisrael Torah. That's the whole nakuda is minhag Yisrael. And Mamela, the agendas are all wrong. What somebody has to do is either establish minhagei hamakayimos, which I'm sorry, I keep saying one last thing, but I do that for the last 6 things. But the Das Yehudis, according to the Meiri that I told you before, says it was established by women. It's not only it was for women. Yehudis Lashon Nekeva, which should have said Yehudiot. He says because it was established by women, the Nashim Chasidos, Chosheva women that took upon themselves, just like the Gemara says, and this will be our segue to next week, Hilchos Nida, B'nai Yisrael Amar Reb Zera, B'nai Yisrael Hichmiro al Atzmam, Sha'afilu Roya Tipas Dam Kechardel, Yeshavas Olav Zayin Nekim. That the whole Indian of Tzamim was a Chiddush of the B'nai Yisrael. And Chazal were makabel. That's the women's minhag. So that's the women's minhag. So what you have here is the whole Das Yehudis is like that. B'nai Yisrael Echmir al Atzman. We took it upon ourselves, and in the makom where we didn't take it upon ourselves, we didn't take it upon ourselves, and that's the correct way to look at the minhagim of tznius. Good. Thank you very much. So the question is, if you move from a makom, no. But this is Ramesh's whole tshuva. If you kept the minhag, because the minhag it automatically goes away. If at any point you kept it as a chumrah, then you have to be a matur neder. And if you kept it only as a minhag and you want to stay in the place, then there's the hataras nedarim doesn't help. The hataras nedarim doesn't help you on a minhag, even though it has a din of a neder. Like somebody can't be matur neder and say, I don't want to keep the din of the Rav Zera. Can't do that. And every makom, Gemara says halacha psuki. Every makom was makabelis. So once every makom was makabelis, like the cherem derab and negation, we're stuck with this.
What about women wearing above the knee or below the knee? Is that something that can change too?
So it's ereva.
That's considered
It's ereva. So we have indication that Das Moshe was to always cover ereva. Now, there are poskim that argue with that. For sure, poskim that argue with this. But as an example, like the schools all asserted leggings. You know what leggings are? Now, leggings 100 years ago was a chumrah. Only Satmar would wear, really thick nylons as there were at that time. So this is mamish like they say Reb Shlomo Zalman somebody showed him like a pair of women's stockings and like he looked at it like it was like a sircha on a tray for himself. No, it's not thick enough. It is thick enough. Well, there's figure behind it, but I think like the thickness is good. So why do they answer it? It's rechavi. Let's say they feel like it's rechavi. I'm not telling schools what to do. I'm saying that. First of all, it's a losing battle, so it's probably not a smart thing to do. Second of all, it has certainly nothing to do with halacha. It has nothing to do with halacha at all. So making a minhag. So who says that to do this, what could be defined as a chumrah? I'm saying 50 years ago or 40 years ago, somebody would do this. Wow, that's a satmar. There we go. Now it's considered rechavi. So that's who makes this up. Principles? The answer is the tzibur of women make it up. So there's a tzibur of women, unless it's a gzeira she'eina tzibur yichon lamed bo. So if the tzibur of women, this is let's take it on ourselves. So that we're stuck with. So he'll sign gebenched if it's Israel.
We have more than one tzibur of women, and there's no
every makom.
We said this is theirs, and we said it's mishmash here. We said we didn't establish that here.
This is what I'm trying to.
So I got that to the only woman who lets a little bit of hair out or something.
They're 100% lefi minhagim,
and they have their own. And so
you're allowed to read Kriya Shema according to everything we learned.
That's my question.
Yeah. You see, that problem is it's a mishmash of mekaymis. So is America a mishmash of mekaymis. The eitzah for it is, maybe I'm being messianic here, but the eitzah for it is that you have to restore what Chazal say over and over and over again of Zayin Tovei Ayir. And Zayin Tovei Ayir, like the Chacham B'Sadam says, Zayin Tovei Ayir, which don't even have to be Talmud Chacham, the Chacham B'Sadam says, Dinam Kisan Hedrin V'Kanshe Knesset Zagdola. Unless it's Xer Shenat Tzibur Yechon Lamed, well, a bunch of maniacs. But you pick a committee. Zayin Tovei Ayir means they represent every different community, and say, okay, here's our minimum here. So, is it impossible? Maybe it's impossible. Moshe said in New York, it's impossible. So he said every shul, every rav should have his minhag. Okay.
The only place of that's in the Torah was this.
Ishtas.
Right, there's no other place, is there?
Good. Ishtas. What does it mean?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to ask. What does it mean? It's actually meant to be one word or...
Ishtas?
Yeah, I really don't know what it actually is. But it's under Moshe, so I thought
the
maybe...
The ksiv is Ishtas.
Right.
But then we take the mustard and the red one.
But some of these things aren't the Raisa.
Nothing to do with the Raisa. I agree. But I think there's Ishtas Lavai, Migu Ashasa Iraisa, you have one. The Targum says. He gave us a Torah.
Right.
That's what the Targum says.
Das is Torah, that means.
But what he's referring, Salam say gave us a Torah. Pashas, what he's referring to is that he gave us Moshe Rabbeinu. Besides for the Torah, what he's saying over here is he also gave us a culture. In other words, of being Jewish, a way to life, a way to live, which goes. Some say people say it's only a minhag. That's even more.
Let's say Minat Torah here or something.
Yeah, but besides for all the quotes, it's Yiddishkeit.
Yeah.
That's the part that's missing. Like once you start going into the technology of it, what's the makar and they're bringing a raya that the knee is included in the Shaik from Hilchos Karbanos, of course. It's matzchik to me because it's so much more than that. It's not like okay, on the cow it's a shaykh, so it must be a shaykh on you also. Why? This is the way Jewish women went, and covering hair is the way Jewish women and probably all dignified women went.
What's the machayev of that though? That you have to go the way they did.
I'll teach Yeshurun. Mar says, what's the machayev?
But what if it happened already? What if?
By the way, that's going on men, right? Shema b'ni.
Yeah.
Musar avicha v'al tita shar zabecha.
Yeah, who said it's only for
Nothing. Not only for Minhag Yisrael. The Mechayev. So then the Gemara has a shayla. Is that an asmachta or is that a deraisa? It's not a pasuk in the. So the Gemara brings rise that it could be deraisa also.
The Shema B'ni.
That you have to listen to a minute. So we spoke about that Shabbos Shuvah. That there could be deraisa Mechayev.